everyone, welcome back. I'm Zoe and Alex here with Alex Watts. We're back for season 2, episode 1 of Football Frenzy after the pandemic, going to a little Zoom action, a little more fun than just listening to our voices. So let's start it off. Football season kicked off. I was so excited, got a little delayed, but
of course,
so happy it's back.
Nothing beats going without football for 8 months. Literally, because there was no preseason, there was barely any televised free agency because everything was, and now, felt like forever. Everything's back now.
I think I paid more attention to this NFL draft than I ever have in my entire life, and I think that's concerning by itself. But let's get started here. So I know the first thing we wanted to talk about, obviously, probably one of the biggest names in the league, Michael Thomas, got hurt. The ankle injury, which is going to sideline him for a couple of weeks. I think this is not only going to hurt the Saints, but also fantasy owners.
Yeah, definitely hurts fantasy owners because, he's like a number one player on anyone's roster because he's so good. But I don't know, it'll definitely hurt the Saints a bit, but they have a pretty solid receiver core. They have Emmanuel Sanders, and then they also have pretty good running backs who can play in the slot. Yeah. Kamara is definitely a good receiving option because he's known to be a pretty good receiving back. And I feel like it would definitely hurt fantasy owners more than it would hurt the Saints.
I know in 2 of my leagues I have him, and as soon as I found that out, I was like, oh no, things are going downhill, and they're going to go downhill fast. So luckily he's only going to be out for a couple weeks. I'm pretty sure they said 2 or 3 if we're lucky. So fingers crossed that everyone gets him back soon. And Drew Brees also needs his biggest target back.
Of course.
With that.
Of course.
All right. Next one. Cam in his Patriots debut. You know that I was very, very hesitant about Cam with the Patriots. I don't think they worked well, but Cam kind of lit it up this weekend.
Oh, yeah, he did. I was pretty surprised because, Belichick ran such a conservative pass-first offense with the Patriots, even with Gronkowski when he was such a great blocker. And I think that it just blew everyone out of the water because number one, he looked like maybe the year before he got hurt, he looked pretty good.
We saw a glimpse of MVP Cam. We definitely did see that. And it was
2 rushing touchdowns.
The thing is that it's really scary because you see the Patriots lose Tom Brady, and obviously they lost Gronk a couple years ago, and you kind of see them fall apart a little bit, and you expect them to not do so well, and they come out and blow everyone out week 1.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying in itself because them having a quarterback who can run changes the way they play the game. And I was very, very hesitant about this one because I didn't think it fits into their scheme just because Cam's not going to want to throw 3-yard passes to his left and right, but he managed to use his feet. And I think other defenses going into games versus the Patriots are going to have to be more aware that they're going to need someone. They're going to need a spy on Cam.
Oh, yeah. And it's so dangerous because he can chuck it 30 yards down the field or he can break out for like a 20-yard run. So he's so, you can't plan for him. You can't plan for any quarterback who is like a dual threat, like Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray.
I was about to say you're going to say Lamar. I was about to say it.
Yeah, but that's why the Panthers were so good with him when he won MVP because he was so unpredictable.
And then also just the fact that if someone does come in, so say another team runs a blitz, right, and they come after Cam, he does still have a James White kind of guy that he can flick the ball off to, and James White will go get the job done.
Oh, so James White makes
it so scary. Edelman's healthy. And then, of course, you have one of the best coaches, if not the best coach of all time, Bill Belichick at the top. Maybe he got there by cheating a little bit, but he's definitely up on that list.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I think this year will actually play out to be a better year for James White than anyone else on that roster because now he has a quarterback who can pitch it out to him, throw it in the flats, and he could he's so much for this offense, and Sony Michel as well because they're both very similar players. And
exactly.
I think
when you don't turn to them, you have Rex Burkhardt running through the middle. Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next topic. So let's talk about, obviously, probably it wasn't a huge game this week, but it was one of the biggest stories of the week was Stephen Goskowski. We just talked about the Patriots, former Patriot. What the hell happened?
Okay, I think it was just luck, especially because he missed all of his field goals. I think he missed one of his extra points,
Yeah, wasn't one of them
and
within like 30 yards or something?
yeah, and he whiffed everything. And then suddenly it's like a 30-yard field goal. Time is running out, and he just hits one to beat the Broncos. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
It was very, very odd. Also, a guy in Steven Goskowski is that he's usually known for being pretty consistent. If you had looked back on the past couple years, you'd look at a guy who's one of the most consistent. I'm a huge fantasy person, you know that. Like, who's one of the most consistent kickers I can pick up? And Steven Goskowski was always on that list.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
he was on the Patriots and he got a lot of opportunities because they scored a lot, but he hit his kicks. And I don't know what happened, but he just could not find the strike zone. Wrong sport.
Yeah.
You really couldn't.
Yeah. I think it's probably because he's rusty. He hasn't played in 2 years. I think he was hurt last year, and he's probably just rusty, trying to pick up the pace. Try to, it's normal for a kicker. If you don't play for like 2 or 3 years, you're gonna be rusty. And that's for any player as well.
The problem is that with a kicker, sure, you can play till you're old, but when you start to go downhill, you're going to be replaced immediately. Even like Matt Gay, we thought he was a staple with the Buccaneers, and they dropped him like it was nothing. Now he's on like practice squad or something. Like kickers come and go so fast in this league, so unless you're playing at a top level, you're kind of screwed. And I think the only reason that he still has a job is because he has such a reputation behind him.
Yeah, and I think that also went with Adam Vinatieri when he was on the Colts. He was like 46 when he retired.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to play to 46, but it's because he has such a good reputation of being consistent, even though he wasn't even that good last year. Like, they kept him the whole year. They didn't replace him until he got hurt, and I think it's just because he was so consistent. He's like a Super Bowl winning kicker, and I think that goes for all kickers. Like, if you're good throughout your whole career, like Justin Tucker, he's going to play at least till he's 50 because he's the most accurate kicker of all time. But if you have that reputation of being so accurate and so consistent, then you're going to get picked up by squads.
And even with kickers recently, it's less about distance. Obviously, that's important, but a lot of it is just about consistency. Obviously, I'm not a head coach of a team, but I think most people would say that they'd rather have a kicker who can't kick 10 yards can't kick as far as everyone else. Maybe they kick 10 yards shorter, but they hit every kick.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about losing the game by 1 or 2 points because you missed 2 extra points.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The last thing, I'm hesitant to talk about it, but you brought it up. It wasn't even me. My very own, my Lions. This was quite the game. I was at a softball tournament all day, so I was not on my phone. I didn't get to watch it till about 7 p.m. So, I went to bed interested, and my Sunday night was not the brightest Sunday night I've had in a while.
And that was a pretty wild ending. You watched the game. You paid more attention to it than I did. Tell me what happened.
Okay, so basically, the Lions played the Bears, who really, other than Khalil Mack, have absolutely no one. I mean, Mitch Trubisky, obviously, Mr. Overrated. He's enough said about him. You don't even have to talk about him. But they came into the game. They started playing well. They're at home, for the record. They have all these new guys that they picked up from other teams. Their corners are strong. The one issue you have going into the game is you don't have Jeff Okudah. The number 3 pick, the guy we got, huge corner. You lose Slay. So you need him in the game, and he's not because he has a hamstring issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you go in to the game. You're doing fine. Lions or whatever. Matt Stafford goes in. They get a couple points. They're up on the Bears. And then next thing you know, the Lions start getting hit with injuries, and they start getting hit hard. Basically, their whole secondary just falls off the face of the earth.
Really?
And then everyone goes down with injuries. And next thing you know, they have, I think, literally the last 2 corners on their roster were out there. So if those 2 guys got hurt, they would have had to put, Jamal Agnew converted to a wide receiver, but they would have put him back there. You had no one else to put there. It was so beyond bad. But anyway, so they're winning. All our fans, I'm like, woo, let's go. Everything's happening. Adrian Peterson on the offensive side tearing it up. He's a new pickup. Swift was having a pretty good game. And then, as usual, we get to the 4th quarter, and the Lions decide to lose their minds. And I can't even tell you what happened, but defense collapsed. Everything went downhill. Maybe it was the secondary, but we ended up basically giving the Bears the whole game. And that can't happen. Then the main story of the game that everyone knows about was the Lions had an opportunity. There were not many seconds left on the clock. We were about 11 seconds left on the clock at like the 11-yard line, 9-yard line, something around there, around a first down. We have basically 2 plays left. And DeAndre Swift, who, you know, the Lions' new running back that they drafted, he's like guy, whatever.
Who did score a touchdown.
Who did score a touchdown, exactly, was in the end zone, and Matt Stafford fired one at him, and it pretty much, like, he caught it, but then, like, dropped it. It was a whole thing. Basically, he would have been the hero, but everyone on Twitter started freaking out and saying, like, we shouldn't have drafted him, it's all his fault. The truth is, it's not really his fault. He had a chance to be the hero, but he's a rookie, and the Lions shouldn't have put him in that position. You know, you had a lead. You blew the lead. If anything, it's on your defense. It's on your interest. It's on your coaching, Matt Patricia, when he decided to kick a field goal that was 50 yards, which usually Matt Prater can hit. But if you're up by 2 scores and you decide to kick that field goal, which Matt Prater then misses, which doesn't happen very often, but misses, the Bears get great field position, end up scoring off of that, and then make it a 1-score game, and then end up getting that score. If anything, I think it falls back on Matt Patricia.
Yeah, and I think a better option on that play would have been Adrian Peterson, who's been in the NFL for 15 years, 16 years, and had a very good game, or Kerryon Johnson, who's been there for a couple of years. And I think it was just bad coaching, bad player substitutions, and could have been a different target. Just could have been much better play.
Absolutely. I mean, Swift is known as this guy who has hands, and usually in that situation, obviously, you'd go to your guy Galladay, who was also out week 1. That was the other guy who was missing with Okudah. So basically, your 2 best players, other than Matt Stafford, I would say, on offense, but, you know, Galladay on offense, and then on defense, Okudah, both are injured, both don't play. And so in that situation, you throw to a rookie running back. I know he has hands, but go to Marvin Jones. I mean, he has some of the best hands in the league. And he's your 3rd down guy when Galladay's not there.
Or T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah, or T.J. Hawkinson. They got him involved a little bit, and he still didn't even play half of snaps, and he had a great game.
Yeah, which it doesn't make any sense.
And Hawk caught a touchdown earlier in the game, too. So I was confused by the decision. I think Stafford hit him right in the hands, and yeah, maybe he should have caught it, but the game doesn't come down to him. It comes down to the Lions, just poor coaching and just, like, poor performance overall. They shouldn't have lost that game, and definitely was not on Swift.
Yeah, they should not have lost. It was just such a stupid loss. The team just
if they can't win at home versus the Bears, you cannot win against anyone.
Yeah.
That's literally it. If Trubisky beats you when you're at home, you know you have an issue. That's crazy. All I can say about it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about some of the games we're most looking forward to this week. For me, I would say I'm really excited for the Patriots-Seahawks game just because you have 2 quarterbacks who are rushing quarterbacks. You have 2 defenses who have been pretty dominant. Obviously, the Patriots lost a few keys, but Patriots defense had a great week last week. I think it's either going to be one of those games that's really high scoring with a lot of rushing yards or really low scoring because the defenses hold up. I don't think you're going to see a lot of passing in this one.
Oh, yeah, because those 2 teams have some of the best secondaries. The Patriots have Stephon Gilmore, who won Defensive Player of the Year. He's probably the best cornerback in the whole entire league. And it's just going to be a lock-up game. It's going to be game played on the ground. They're going to have to rely on their running backs. And it's just going to be a fun and messy game overall.
I think it's going to be really exciting. There's not going to be many pass yards, but that'll definitely be a good one to watch. For me, I'm going to take the Seahawks just because I think overall they're more well-rounded. I know you have Cam there with the Patriots, but it could have just been a fluke a little bit. And also, I just believe that the Seahawks run defense is going to be able to shut down Cam. I don't think it's going to be that hard for them. So that's my thing on it. Russell Wilson may very well run all over the Patriots, but I think Seahawks defense is going to get it done.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that Russell Wilson is on a complete There's three quarterbacks separated but from the entire league. It's Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson. Like, I think Stephen A. Smith said this or something like that. Those are the three. Those are the three quarterbacks who are completely separated from the league on a talent level, skill level, just like how they're playing overall. And Russell Wilson is just going to completely outplay Cam Newton, who's in a new system. Even though he played well last week, it was still against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that the Seahawks are definitely going to win.
I mean, if the Patriots think it's going to be anything like that Dolphins game, the Seahawks D-line is nothing like the Dolphins D-line. Sorry to break it to you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go to waiver wire pickups, though, because that's something we both wanted to incorporate a little bit this year. We're both fantasy nut jobs. It's sad, but even more than football season, I was looking forward to it for the Lions and for fantasy. Biggest fantasy person. I have my trophy right here from last season.
Oh,
keep
wow.
it on my desk so I can look at it all the time. But, the biggest fantasy nuts. So, my guy this week that I think if you don't have him, you have to pick up, Benny Snell Jr. He's the backup running back for the Steelers. He's been picked up already a lot. His percentage is way up. But if in your league you can manage to snag him, definitely go shoot for him. James Conner got hurt this week. We don't know when he's going to be back. We don't know if he's playing this week or not, but he will definitely be under limited snaps. And even with limited snaps for Benny Snell, just because he didn't get the production, he still had a great game.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Steelers are gonna rely on James Conner anymore because he had a fluke season like 2 years ago because Le'Veon Bell held out, and he's just been hurt ever since. So I think that Benny Snell is the option for now until they pick up or draft a better player, because I think that he's starting caliber maybe for a season or two until they end up finding someone better. But that's a great waiver wire pickup. But I think another one is Malcolm Brown of the Rams. He played very good for a position that was very questionable in the Rams. They just lost Todd Gurley to free agency, and he had 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think his percent skyrocketed to 68% last week. And I think that is just a very good pickup.
I absolutely agree. I think both of these guys have definitely been picked up, but especially if you play in a league with less people and you can manage to snag them, or if you catch your friend sleeping on someone, definitely go grab these guys as soon as you can, even especially for Benny Snell. Like, if he's there, even if you're not going to play him this week, he's a really good guy to stash. As we said, Connor, I believe in him, but I think sometimes he's a little uneven, unsteady, and the Steelers rely so much on their running game for anything to happen that I think he's someone that if he's around, there's no reason that you shouldn't have him on your bench.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to, we know our favorite topic. We're doing it again this year, red zone questions. So last year, I believe I won. We'll see how it goes this year. But basically, if you don't remember what this is, we do 3 questions at the end of every podcast. And they're like over-under questions, this player, that player, basically predictions for the next week. We both make our predictions, and then we come back next week, see who got the points, and at the end of the season, we'll tally them up and see who won. We got to figure out a reward for this season. I'm just saying. Got to make it a little competitive. But anyway, Let's start off. So our first question, I'll throw it to you first. Who will throw more touchdowns this weekend, Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
Well, tomorrow, the Browns are playing the Bengals. Thursday Night Football. First time for Joe Burrow. And I think Joe Burrow is going to throw more touchdowns. And I think the Bengals are going to pick up the win because the Browns are so dysfunctional. Their new coach is just, I don't know. Baker Mayfield is just awful. I think that he's bust. He's a bust. And I think that Joe Burrow will find AJ Green. He'll find Auden Tate, and he'll be able to score a bunch of touchdowns.
I think if you're relying on AJ Green to get you through a game, you have a serious issue. I don't really believe in Baker Mayfield, but I believe even less in Joe Burrow coming out of college from LSU. I don't understand why this guy was so hyped up. Maybe he'll be fine, but he's not going to be a star in this league. He doesn't have the star power that a guy like Lamar or Patrick has. He just doesn't have it. So I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield just because even though he's not the best quarterback, sometimes he can get the job done. It depends if he's on or off, but he definitely has more weapons around him to get it done than Joe Burrow does. And I definitely believe in him more. So I'm going to go Baker Mayfield. You go Joe Burrow. Let's go to the next one. Who will rush for more yards, Cam Newton or Russell Wilson? I see the bug.
Yeah, but I think that Cam Newton, he's just naturally a running. Jesus. I think he's just naturally a rushing quarterback more than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson tends to rush more under pressure. Cam tends to have more design runs. And I think that Cam Newton definitely will. And he'll also have more rushing touchdowns because that's just his thing. And, yeah.
I think I'm going to agree with you there, but for a different reason. I'm going to agree with you because I think Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll have more things worked out where they're going to use more of their weapons, whereas Cam Newton, when he gets nervous and panics, he just runs. And sometimes he doesn't run to good situations, but he runs and usually gets the job done. So Russell Wilson is more calm in the pocket. He knows what he's doing, and I think they're going to turn to Cam Newton running more for the Patriots than they're going to turn to Russell Wilson needing to run for the Seahawks. And
yeah.
It's all going to come down to the Seahawks defense. It really is. But I'll agree with you that one and go Cam. And our last one of the day. So as we both know, Saquon had pretty much the worst day of his career. What do you have, like 6 or 9 yards or something?
Yeah.
It was
I saw this at halftime. I tuned in to the game a little bit. He had 15 carries and 6 yards, which is just awful for him. Like,
so
he had
bad.
a good 60 receiving yards, but that just does not make up. You're supposed to be number 2 overall running back. You're supposed to be like a 1,500-yard rusher, and you just go for 6 yards in the game. That's just awful. But
exactly. So over under
also
75 this week.
I think over because he also played against probably the best run defense in the whole entire league, which is the Steelers. And now he's going against the Bears, who have only like literally one good player on their roster. So I think that he redeems himself, even though he had a very bad week last week, and people are going to say, oh, he's just falling off. He had a fluke rookie season. But no, I think he's going to definitely redeem himself.
I completely agree. I think he's over 75. I think for Saquon, a lot of the times he has those short rushes, but it comes down to when he breaks through, and he usually has a game where he breaks through. If he breaks through that line, he's gone. There's no question about it. And it just depends on his offensive line giving him those opportunities or him finding those opportunities even when the line doesn't give it to him to break through. And again, there was no preseason. The only guys he's played against are his own Giants defensive line, which you can say whatever the hell you want to say about that. But so he is playing versus real caliber defensive ends and defensive linemen. And I think now he's got a little bit of a feel for it, and he'll be right back in the swing of things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But that's it for us today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday with another episode. Alex, to the football season. Good to be back.
Yep, definitely.